are coming into the alley. They scan.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Meeting to order. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor and Council, I don't have any additions or corrections for you.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Tim to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say nay. Motion carries. Invocation is from Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Good evening.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee at the beginning of this meeting for this great city of Hutchinson. We thank thee, Father, for the opportunity to be here this evening to meet together to discuss the affairs of this good city. We thank thee for those council members and all those that labor on behalf of all of those that reside here in this great city. We are grateful, Father, for blessing us in this country which we live in and the freedoms which we still enjoy. We ask a blessing to be upon those in attendance this evening, that especially those council members, that they may be unified in their hearts and in the decisions that they make on behalf of those that will benefit from these decisions and the things that happen here in this meeting. And we again thank thee and acknowledge thy hand in all that we were able to accomplish and do. And we say these things in thy Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognition of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? I just want to recognize we had the Wall That Heals that came to town, and I tell you, it was a great turnout. There are so many people that volunteered and put in to make that a great success. So just want to throw out a thank you to everybody that helped with the Wall That Healed. We do have a proclamation. Whereas on May 10th, 2024, Barry Anderson retired as the Associate Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court after serving nearly 10 years in that position. After being appointed by the Governor Tim Pawlenty on October 13th, 2004. Yeah. Whereas Barry previously has served as a member of the Minnesota Court of Appeals from 1998 to 2004, and whereas Barry served with distinction as the city attorney for the city of Hutchinson from 1987 to 1998, whereas Barry served to the Hutchinson community goes beyond serving as a city attorney. Barry's service included time as chairman of the board of directors of the Hutchinson Community Video Network and 2 terms as president of the Hutchinson Rotary Club, along with various other community activities. And whereas Barry is also a frequent contributor to continuing legal education efforts on many levels, including serving as national judge of We the People high school civic competition and moderate Pioneer P BS your legislature over 20 years. Now therefore, I, Gary Forcier, Mayor of Hutchinson, do proclaim Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 as Barry Anderson Day in the city of Hutchinson, Minnesota, in recognition of Barry's contribution to the rule of law as judge on the Minnesota Court of Appeals and the Minnesota Supreme Court, and for Barry's service as a city attorney and time spent on various boards, committees, and community activities throughout the city of Hutchinson. I think Barry deserves a round of applause. Thank you. Moving on, citizens addressing the council, just please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Alrighty, approval of minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes of August 13th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda will be done with one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. We have reappointment of Troy Pullis to the Airport Commissions to September of 2029. Appointment of Matt Worley to the Airport Commission to September of 2029. Appointment of Bryce Roosh to the Airport Commission to September of 2029. Appointment of Amy Parsons to the Sustainability Advisory Boards to May of 2027. B is approval of chip and fog seal. C is approval of asphalt overlay for the water department back parking lot. D is approval of reconstruction of wastewater plant entrance. E is approval of Birdie Circle Pond site grading and improvement. F is approval of tandem truck purchase. G is approval of resolution number 15761, authorization to execute Minnesota DOT agent agreement for federal airport expense reimbursement. H is approval of subdivision agreement with top 10 option. I is claims appropriations and contract payments, register A. Anything anybody wants pulled off for discussion?
Mayor and council, can we pull item H? There were a couple minor updates to the subdivision agreement.
Motion to approve is presented with the exception of item H.
Aye, or second, sorry.
Motion by, second by Dave to approve balance with H being pulled off. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. We had a couple just minor changes to the subdivision agreement that the developer and I discussed today. The first one was under section 1, number 7. We just clarified that the pond that's in place there, the developer has authority to utilize that pond for their drainage. And then under section 2, number 1, we just made it clear that after the city accepts the development from the developer, that the city will be in charge of maintaining the street and infrastructure and whatnot. So just wanted to make that noted, since the one you had in your version had a little different language.
Motion to approve item H with changes to it.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, second by Chad to approve with the changes. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. 8 as claims appropriation contract payments, Register B. My son has a check on there, so I will be abstaining from the vote.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Tim to approve with me abstaining. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. We do not have a public hearing, communications, requests, petitions, discussion on cannabis regulations.
Mayor and council, I'd put this agenda item on based off of some discussion we've had at staff. As you may or may not know, the state has legalized cannabis use in Minnesota. And I know they recently started accepting applications for several different businesses. I think a report came out last week that they had over 1,800 applications for, I think, roughly 280 some permits that they're going to be issuing statewide. We'll likely start seeing some of those permits maybe even going into place this fall, but most of it will take place next year. With that being said, I wanted to at least have a conversation with the council to see if there's any desire to update or upgrade any of our ordinances to deal with cannabis regulation. I guess before we get in that discussion, I think it's important for the council and even for the public to know that the state has more or less taken control of regulating this. So we have very few things we can do as a city to regulate cannabis. I think it's important to share that because I know we've had calls already. Most of that is handled by the state. And so you're saying, who do I call? It's going to be your legislators if you've got concerns over it. So there's very few areas that we can really address from a city standpoint, but there are a couple things. And so I guess that's the purpose for this discussion tonight, to see if there's anything that we would like to do when it comes to regulation. And I guess specifically, there's kind of 4 areas that we can regulate. One is where a business can go. We can regulate the hours of sale of a business. We can limit the number of retailers within the community. And then we obviously have some room to establish fees for when they have to register with us as a city. And so I sent you a lot of information. To the state's credit, they put out a guide. I will say it still has a lot of questions that need to be answered.
It's vague at best with a lot of things.
Yes, and I think we're going to see a lot of changes in it over the years to come. I think one of the things that it's important to touch on, we've talked about and we've explored maybe looking at municipal cannabis ourselves. However, unlike liquor, we cannot be the sole owner of that if we were to go down that route. So the state says at a minimum we have to allow at least one retailer in town, and it can't be us. So this will be a future discussion, but just for both the public and the councils, if there was this idea, well, the city should get in it to kind of regulate it similar to alcohol, we do not have that provision allowed to us by the state. So we would have to, if we were to get into business, we would be competing with the private sector in doing that. So that's another conversation, but I felt it was important at least to share that. We had thrown out a list of kind of different sections of the law and areas that we can regulate, and I guess I wanted to turn it back to the council to see if there was any desire. Right now, we've kind of taken the approach, we're going to handle it. We're going to regulate it similar to tobacco in town. Like I said, there are some minor restrictions that we can do, and so I wanted to turn over to council to see, hopefully you had an opportunity to kind of take a look at all this to see if you had any personal thoughts on something, because if you did, we'd be looking then to somewhere down the road bring an ordinance to the council for your consideration.
I'm surprised and I'm just saying this, the fee that we can charge is $1,000, correct? So it's less than what a liquor license costs, and the profit margins on marijuana are 5-fold what they are on liquor.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, to me, there's no equity there. That's just me. So I'm putting my bid in we charge a minimum of $1,000.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, you look at the profit margins and that, it's 40 to 50%. And I'm gonna speak, I think we should, adhere to some of those regulations we have with the smoking, the tobacco, no sales within 1,000 feet of the thing we've got here, 500 feet of a daycare.
We currently don't regulate that with
Don't.
tobacco.
I don't know if there's any stores that would be that close to a school, so maybe we don't.
Well, actually, most of Main Street would be,
It would be, so then.
right? I think, right, Dan?
Yeah, we did the math on that, and a lot of the main street would be within that distance of
500 feet or something.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think that's something we need to consider. Zoning, Dan, that's kind of designated by the state somewhat. I mean, a lot of the guide, and I tried to find, it's hard to find exactly what the state's got for their, I did some search and it's like,
I mean, we could regulate, I think you could regulate all cannabis businesses could be located in an industrial park only.
sure, which I don't know that we need to, I'm just.
Yeah. Right now, the way we would look at it is the type of business would have to fit the zoning. So if it's a cultivator, it'd have to be in an egg district in the city. If it was a retail, it'd have to be in a commercial.
Yeah, generally speaking, I think it's just our retail districts or commercial and allow you to sell items. The industrial park, there's a little bit of that allowed, and like as noted, theoretically you could limit cannabis to the industrial park, but unless there's other direction in terms of the distance from schools or parks and where we could sell it, it seems like it ends up being a little bit of probably a regulation or trying to figure it out, because I know right now at some of the tobacco shops in town, you can get, the stuff that's under the threshold, and that's already within in the zone of the parks and the schools. I mean, not that there is a zone, but the 500
It's
feet.
within that, yeah.
So how do you weigh those things?
Interesting.
Well, our industrial park is a school that's right up there too.
Yeah, and again, we'd have to institute that distance from the school if we wanted to do that. And I know when we did the like the microbrewery ordinance and we did one for tobacco too, for the tobacco shops. I don't think we had a distance in at all for distances from those businesses.
We don't. So.
But tobacco shops aren't selling hallucinogenic items or.
Well, depends on what you consider.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, most likely they're selling illegal THC
Yeah,
stuff.
yep, yeah, kind of. I don't know. What do you guys, am I the only one with thoughts on this?
I mean, I'd be fine with the $1,000 registration fee. I don't know that we need to limit it any more than tobacco though.
I don't see an issue with registration fee. Retailers, I think that's gonna shake out on profit margin and supply and demand. And I like to see that in business, and some are gonna make it, some aren't. I can admit, I've been to Colorado and gone to several different dispensaries just to see. In fact, somebody took me on a tour of one who was a veteran. His looked like a JCPenney, and it was high class and high end, and no lines outside. And then I've been to ones that were in an industrial park where they had lines outside, and it wasn't where I'd want to go. We just went in the parking lot and turned around and said, this isn't a good place to be. That's just the honest truth. So I think it comes down to the presentation of it. Sale hours, I think you go with pretty much liquor and tobacco sale hours. And where they can go, it's a legal product now.
Tobacco doesn't have a.
Tobacco's a legal product, alcohol's a legal product.
I would rather see us follow the alcohol hours. I mean, tobacco's, you can buy it anywhere.
Yes, I would agree with you.
Yeah. I think that was even a conversation we had as staff, is that might be, if if there's a regulation on alcohol, maybe that should just match that. So.
But that's my feelings towards it.
So at least gives you something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a consensus on our establishing a fee on, doing the time for similar to to alcohol. I hear a strong consensus on limiting the amount and or the location. One thing I will note, and this is just something to keep in the back of your mind, and I don't think, you know, when I did the math, there was 1,800 applications and they're only gonna give out 280, that's 15%. So I know there was 8 applications for Hutchinson for various different, I think there was 4 retail applications, I think there was 2 transportation, I can't remember what.
Cultivators, they're probably.
Yeah, and so if you do the math, probably one of those 8 would probably get a license from the state.
So that's about, I mean, we may not have to regulate how many because there aren't that many that are gonna be given out to start.
To start, and the other thing to keep in mind too, and this is just the reality of it, municipal governments will receive a portion of the cannabis tax. And the portion that you receive will be dependent on the number of facilities that are within your jurisdiction.
So, Matt, and it's just, you can't, there's no magic ball, but if that's how many were, applied for, and that's, you know, you think 15%, if that's the, kind of the number, we're probably not gonna get more than 1 for this area anyway, I don't, that's a.
I mean, it's all gonna be determined by the state and the process they use. Once again, that's, like I said, I know there's individuals that have a lot of concern of this, and really the state has told cities, we're not gonna let you
Govern it. Very much.
Yeah.
Cause I see you said the county prohibited the use in public area, that would be like the fairgrounds or any of their.
Fairgrounds, technically any of our roadways, our sidewalks, our parks, you know, the county, that's the one time, or the one ordinance they've superseded a city ordinance on, so.
Basically, it's kind of limited to private residences.
Yeah.
And are they gonna allow, do you, again, I looked and I couldn't, are bars gonna be able to allow it in a public place like that if there's a license like that? Because
No.
there is, it talks to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, a bar, they still have to follow the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act, so you'd have to,
Outside.
so it'd have to be within, you know, I'm sure outside of, 15 feet of an entrance or intake or whatever, so.
It's gonna be difficult for bars with that. I mean, we've seen other communities, the bars normally don't. It's like smoking, they don't allow, I mean, even outside, because the smell's a totally different smell and then it's a turn off to people. A lot of bars that I've seen haven't jumped up to that, but.
But what I'm getting, if the state says it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, right now,
Interesting.
yeah, so, like I said, I think, you know, I've sat in a couple different conferences, a couple different webinars. There's still a lot of questions, and so.
And the issue comes into the distribution too. I mean, cannabis is edibles, cookies, brownie, I mean, all those other things. And, you know, you go walk into a bar and eat a gummy.
Well, and once the dispensaries are open, like right now, 10 milligrams is the max. That's, it can be 800 milligrams, you know, I don't think they limited what the potency can be. It's gonna be much more than what you can get with the
Well,
THC.
and once again, who's responsible for regulating that?
Right. The
state.
Yeah,
So you,
interesting.
have they talked about how they're gonna do it with, how they're including currently the people who are using medicinal cannabis?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything. I'm assuming those are probably already grandfathered in because they've already been issued. I don't know if, Mark, if you've come across anything regarding that.
I haven't, but I remember reading a couple of different articles about the struggle the state is having directly on that point is how are they going to mesh those two things? Because we've had existing rules for medical marijuana for a number of years now. Now we're trying to come up to speed on, I guess I'd say the recreational cannabis. So the bottom line is the state's still working on that as well.
A lot of gray area.
A lot for how soon this is coming into effect.
Way too many gray areas, yeah.
Oh, well.
Until the state really comes down and has definite rules and
Like I said,
regulations.
like you said, we highlighted the 4 areas that we have control over.
Yeah.
That's where it can go, their sales, how many you can have in town, and then a fee that we can charge. And then whether or not you're gonna allow it in public places, of which the county has already.
Said no.
That's really the only control, if you want to say, the city has when it comes to cannabis regulation. Unless you have anything else, I think I feel comfortable in the things that you guys are looking for, and we'll look to address that in the near future. So,
Alrighty. Anything else? Mary? Thanks, Matt. Mark? No unfinished business, new business, resolution number 15760, resolution authorizing the sale of general obligation bonds series 2024A.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. So tonight is the first step that we usually take when we issue tax-exempt bonds to finance our annual roadway projects. And our roadway projects are well underway. We typically bond after they've been primarily complete or majorly complete. Just gives us a better handle on the costs. We're not bonding based on estimates, but tonight, I'm just going to speak briefly before I turn it over to Nick Anhut. Just wanted to go through the projects that we're looking at this year. And you can see on the top half of my sheet here, we've got actually two components to our bonding this year: Statute 475 bonds and Statute 429 bonds. Statute 429 is what we typically issue. And that's our special assessment improvement bonds. Unfortunately, the top two projects didn't generate enough assessments to utilize that Statute 429. So that's why we're using the two statutes this year. But what I wanted to point out, a couple things. We're looking at just under $2.85 million in total project costs. And then over on the funding side, wanted to show you that we're funding 24% of those costs with enterprise fund contributions, another 13% from special assessments, and then that leaves us with 63% being funded by our bonding or our debt levy. This little box here, bonding summary, that just shows how we're arriving at our par value that Nick will speak to here shortly. But wanted to show you this bottom box. We talked about this in our CIP meeting or workshop just before this meeting. Our 1.9 million annual target for our cost funded by our debt levy, essentially. So we're just under that. So we're sitting good for this year's bond offering. We're about 24,000 below that. And then I also want to just show you the impact on the debt levy. So last year in December, we had a debt plan that showed our 2025 debt levy would increase about 3.4%. Tonight, based on the estimates that we're going to look at in the pre-sale report, we're looking at a 3.1% debt levy increase. So a little bit better than we originally thought. Some of that's because our costs are just slightly lower than what we had projected, but then we're also seeing lower interest rates than what we had thought back in December as well. So those two things are certainly helping to hold our debt levy lower than what we had originally thought. So I wanted to just show you those two things. And now at this point, I'll turn it over to Nick. He'll go through the pre-sale report, and then either he or I are available for questions.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Nick Anhut with Ellers and Associates. We're financial advisors to the city and helping Andy put together this bond offering. So as he mentioned, there are two statutory components to this year's bond offering. So the city, under its charter and statutes, is allowed to authorize debt for certain types of projects as long as we can meet criteria that's defined in the statutes. And one of those, under 429, if you have an assessment project and at least 20% of the cost of that project is being assessed to the benefiting properties, you're able to issue debt to finance that project. A couple of the projects were a little bit lower than that 20% threshold. So earlier this year, we had a public hearing to authorize debt for street reconstruction projects that don't meet that assessment criteria. So we've already gone through those proceedings. You're already at the point in time where the council has the authority to approve debt for these projects. Our estimate of the interest costs on these projects is about 3.84%. That's just kind of using some comparable sales that we've seen throughout the state over the course of the last month. Rates have been coming down slightly since earlier in the year. Obviously in the news, there's some speculation that the Federal Reserve might take some action to reduce rates. Here in the next month, they don't meet until near the end of September. But I think the marketplace as it stands does have an expectation that even though if it doesn't happen then, we might see improvement in those rates in the time frame between now and when we open bids on these bonds at the end of September. So our estimates are firm. We do think that you would be able to come in at or below those levels, which do fit within the long-term plan that the city has adopted for its debt levies. Other than that, I think the only other component that is an unknown, but we have some assurance on, is these bonds are backed by the full faith and credit of the city, and so we will be seeking an evaluation from Standard & Poor's on that credit worthiness. Right now, they rate the city at a AA- rating. That's the fourth highest rating that they do offer any type of municipality or business or any other borrower in the marketplace. We expect that we will be able to stand pat at that rating, but they do go through an evaluation. We have a discussion, lasts about an hour, where we talk about the city's finances, economic activity, and then they go through a committee process to update that rating. Their last indication were that all the measures that they evaluate were stable at the city of Hutchinson. So we certainly don't expect there to be any negatives associated with that, only good things coming out of that evaluation. So we expect to get results on that in about 2 weeks and think it'll come in at that AA- level again. Happy to address any questions, but looking forward to working on this project and coming back before you at your second meeting in September with bids that we can discuss and offer or award to the lowest cost proposal that we receive.
I know in years past, we've been very fortunate in getting a lot of bids. Is that the way it's been kind of this year too?
Yeah, I think Andy and I were just talking about this. The last month, we saw a little bit higher uptick in activity than we usually do. It kind of gets a little sleepy in the summertime as folks are going on vacation. Projects are already kind of kicking, and we actually had some good comps to look at, and bid activity was strong in August. So no indications that that would tail off, and actually, there's a lot of indications that we expect that we'll have some good bidding results for this sale as well.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. There's nothing to prevent us from moving ahead, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
First reading of ordinance number 24-848, ordinance of the City of Hutchinson, Minnesota, vacating drainage and utility easement located in the second addition to the Meadows.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. In your packet, you notice there's a item relative to vacating an easement. About a month ago, we approved the second addition to the Meadows plat, and the surveyor had included a interior lot line drainage and utility easement. However, the developer's looking at putting up a twin home on that site, so the easement is not needed and in fact is in the way. So that was noticed relatively soon after the plat was recorded, and now we need to do the vacation. So that's what this is. This is the first reading. If you would approve this, I'll be back here next council meeting to consider the second reading and adoption.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Tim to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thanks, Dan. Governance, we have Hutchinson Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board minutes from July 16th, 2024, and of August 15th, 2023. That's the annual meeting. And the City of Hutchinson Financial and Reinvestments reports for July of 2024. Mike, do you have anything for us tonight?
Can we give just a quick update on our projects?
That'd be great.
Nate and Andy both alluded to our projects for the summer have generally wrapped up. Washington, they paved on Friday, striping and things done here in the last couple of days. So finally good to have those behind us. Just a little bit of punch list work left on the various projects, but all stuff that should be completed in the next couple of weeks. And then there are a few fall projects we have planned, a couple seal coating projects. You approved a couple of those tonight. Generally speaking, not terribly intrusive, a couple days at a time. But there will be a little bit of activity as long as the weather will allow. Already preparing for the leaf season, getting the equipment ready. Within about a month, we'll be at that again. So just kind of a reminder, some residents' favorite time of the year in some ways, getting ready for it. And Matt always mentions that the citywide cleanup, there will be an event, I think, in September here too. So that will just precede the annual leaf cleanup. But other than that, everything's tracked really well. Everything's come in on budget, as Andy's alluded. So had a really good season.
Any update on airport in Jefferson area?
Yes, we had a progress meeting again today. We have one more meeting left, meaning they're getting very close to wrapping up. Working with the school district just to communicate bus routes. They expect about a 10-day disruption there with the start of school next week. Should be finishing up by about September 10th, 11th. At this point, which would include almost all signage, striping, everything, kind of wrapping up that week of the 9th. So getting close. They actually should be almost done paving today, tomorrow, I believe, if the weather holds as expected.
You're gonna have one more round of pothole and crack sealing?
Out doing that right now, still trying to get school road done here before school starts. And yeah, that'll take us into the fall. We'll have more to do. But some of the work that you approved tonight was more contractor-based work on the crack sealing and seal coating. And then a lot of work that we'll be doing internally in the meantime. A little bit of storm damage last night. We did have a few tree branches, notable limbs down. Nothing major, certainly spared, unlike a few communities in the West Metro, Waconia area. So,
Did you drive by my shop?
well, I heard probably our biggest limb was up in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, we got a tree down up there.
Yeah, but generally speaking, just a few in the boulevards, but nothing major.
And
Mike,
We're hoping it was gonna fall on you, Gary, sorry, it's just, we missed it this time, so.
Also, thank you for the response time to the downtown business as we, as councilmen have questions from citizens and businesses. Your response time on that was very quick on taking care of that, or at least addressing the problem. So thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Mike, I know you guys get out and about, and but if there a pothole or something, the public is encouraged to give you a call.
Yeah, give us a call, email, they often come that way. On the website, there's a report a problem. A lot of our tree requests especially come in through that, but any number of ways, whether it's Donovan, myself, others. But yeah, email us and we have.
Like even the highways, because I know every now and then it's complaints on.
I would say, Matt, actually you had an observation on a traffic light recently, and yeah, we may not address it. Those are kind of the nice ones that say, but we know who to contact. So, but yeah, it however comes in, we can forward it on, whether it's county or possibly DOT, anything related, of course, to 15. We'll just pass on to the appropriate party.
Now, the real big question, did you get Matt's water pressure?
Yes, we did. I can mention real quick over on Otter, and we think it was probably a water hammer issue, maybe related to the repair from a few weeks ago out in Island View. We had a stub line on Friday night around 6 o'clock that failed. A cap that had been put on a 6-inch water main blew off, likely from, again, a water hammer when the water was turned back on, shook kind of the system, and 2 weeks later, it shows up in the form of a stub cap. So Jewel came in on Saturday morning and repaired.
I told my
it
neighbors
for us.
that's what happens when you upset me. I shut your water off. So I had
Shut off quite a bit of the community. We heard from a number of people, but that did get taken care of Saturday morning.
I know my wife got a little giggle because on Facebook it said to call the mayor. And
Oh, okay, yeah.
they definitely can call me because I know who to call.
Yep.
So that's glad you got that
It
fixed.
did get taken care of. Unfortunately, it was a pretty minor repair, but did need to be made. Should mention real quick too, our first round of water meter, about 1,800, we're 1,600 scheduled at this point. But final notices, meaning water shut off, is being mentioned now as kind of the attention grabber for about the last 220 holdouts on this first phase. So just kind of a heads up in case folks question it. We have let our customer service staff know too. We'll certainly take anything that's extenuating from that standpoint. Generally speaking, it's been a very painless process. It's gone very, very smoothly. I think even folks that might have had real concerns, it's a 15-20 minute in out and taken care of, and so it's gone really well. We're kind of approaching now the second phase, and we'll probably be in front of you next at the next meeting with kind of a second phase to kick off.
And the one hiccup in the water meter replacement, I should say, it was one of our staff's water meters.
Correct. Mine actually took a little longer than others, but yes, one of the other staff members so far has the banner for the toughest one, but Keith got taken care of too, but you learn from it. And our lead copper, I will say too, on that survey, the last data goes to the Minnesota Department of Health this week. So we're wrapping up that project also with still only one service line that was lead that's been replaced already. So we're positioned well as a community.
Anything else for Mike? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Kelly, you have anything else for us tonight? Mark?
Oh yeah, I had one thing I had wanted to talk about. It's change, isn't it?
what?
So I just wanted to express my appreciation for your proclamation about Barry Anderson. As you know, he was my predecessor here with the city. I had the good fortune of working with him when I took over in 1998. We overlapped for a couple of months. There's probably not a bigger booster for the city of Hutchinson than Barry Anderson. Every conference that I've gone to that he's spoken at, other events, always speaks so well of the city of Hutchinson, how fond he was of his time here in the city of Hutchinson, working for the city of Hutchinson, and literally working for the people of the city of Hutchinson. As you mentioned in your proclamation, he went on to, I hate to say bigger and better things, because nothing is better than the city of Hutchinson, but with his service at the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court, he's really done a great service to the people of the state of Minnesota with all the opinions that he's authored and his adherence to the rule of law to make sure that justice is done in the state. So I just wanted to say once again, I appreciate your proclamation and look forward to him coming here on September 10th.
Barry was a big cheerleader for Hutchinson, that's for sure.
Yeah, he is quite tall.
Alrighty, thanks, Mark. Chad, let's start with you tonight.
I didn't have anything extra tonight.
Alright, Tim.
Well, the Sustainability Committee met and didn't have a quorum, but the meeting still went 2 hours because we got into a great discussion about the stormwater runoff and the new plans that they're being developed by the university and the system on the engineering for potential rainfalls and changes in our community and helping to look forward enough years to be able to budget and figure out, water runoff and those kind of things. So I really appreciate, that we're that far advanced on it, where we're actually looking out 10, 15, 20 years of what could happen with rainfall and moving water in this community. Library board met. They have tons of youth activity from young kids to middle and actually they had some event in the park and I'm going to forget the name of the group, Jolly something or another. They had 170 people there and so they're really, their programs, they have a programmer over there who really enjoys putting these things together. They're working in conjunction with Hutch Health right now on a book called Look, which is to help kids with identifying things in the community, identifying just differences and things like that. So they're doing a lot over at the public library. Uh, Thank you to everybody for the respect for the Wall That Heals that was here. They estimated between 9,000 and 10,000 visitors. Hutchinson, I think, now holds the record for the largest group tour of over 140 people on Sunday morning. They had to add another group tour in. Thank you to all the volunteers, just everybody who came out. It was a great event for this community and a lot of respect to our Vietnam veterans in our community.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim. Dave?
Well, believe it or not, I got to attend by Zoom, Mid-Minnesota Regional Transportation Coordination Council meeting today. And I want to relate to the public that the Meeker and McLeod County service providers are going to have a senior expo at the fairgrounds on October 8th. So mark your calendars if you're interested in going to that. And I think probably everyone in our, and I'll say our age bracket should be interested in going. They don't know the time yet, but it is going to take place on October 8th at the fairgrounds. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's going to happen. Still, the transportation is a huge deal in this state as far as getting everybody applicable for having transportation when they need it and that type of thing. So it sounds like and it feels like it's going to go on for years and years to come before that possibly happens. It's volunteer programs, and I think there'll be more at the expo. Talk about volunteerism, driving, even though we have McLeod County Veteran Services out of Glencoe, and we also have the DAV that do that type of thing, but that is mainly pertained to veterans and not civilians completely. So it's a huge challenge, and they tried an autonomous car. I won't remember the place now, unfortunately, but I think it's up on the Iron Range somewhere. That you could call and the car would come and pick you up, take you to where you're going, and from what I understand, it's probably going to take a very young person to appreciate autonomous. When there's no driver, the car pulls up and you get in and it takes off. So that's going to be dealt with in another meeting that has Minnesota DOT and the transportation coordinators for the MMDCs or the other ones that are in. So, but it's interesting to think that older people are not real comfortable of getting into an automobile that doesn't have a driver and it takes off and takes them where they want to go. So, and then they don't have the help because the volunteer drivers normally go up to the door, assist them to the car if that's what's needed, and gets them to where they belong, and then does the same on a return trip. So it's a challenge right now, and so other than that, we had a long meeting and a lot of discussion, and so was glad to be there today. I missed a couple because of other commitments from that aspect of it. So, but yeah. Well, that's the good news I have is the expo at the fairgrounds, October 8th, 2024. There'll be more coming out on that. Thank you. And I want to express my feelings about the Wall That Heals. I'm not typically not a Vietnam veteran. I was out in '64, so I'm just a little ahead of that, even though there were things going on that the public probably wasn't aware of in certain areas over there. But it was very heartfelt, and it was.
Yep.
So,
Thanks, Dave.
thank you.
Yeah.
EDA meetings tomorrow, so nothing on that. Public Arts hasn't met for a little while because we're meeting quarterly. The sculptures are up, so if you want to go around town, check them out. They're all over. Everybody enjoy the Labor Day weekend. It's here already.
Yeah.
That's coming up.
And the Vietnam Memorial was emotional. I'm really glad that it came to town. It was special.
Thanks, Pat. Matt.
Obviously no Memorial, or Labor Day, sorry. Offices are closed on Monday. Just another quick reminder that there is another budget meeting that's on the preliminary budget prior to our next council meeting at 4 o'clock on September 10th. And I just got a notification late this afternoon, and I'll pass this off to the city. It sounds like we're being invited by the county. Speaking of cannabis, they must be having a discussion on a draft county cannabis ordinance. That's going to be September 9th at 7 p.m. So I'll send that to you. So if you're interested in attending, let me know. So in case we get a quorum, I can talk with Gary about calling a special meeting for that. But I'll send this out to you probably tomorrow. But it sounds like they're having a workshop on Monday, September 9th at 7 o'clock at the McLeod County Government Center. So otherwise, yeah, that's it for me. So,
Mary, I did have somebody from my precinct, which is precinct 1, and we vote at Ridgewater College. Just the accessibility to get up to vote and stuff. So I told them that I would bring it up. They're actually, Matt, I do believe that the state puts where our precincts are.
well, we have some options to try to locate them ourselves. Some of this goes back to, I'm a little surprised because this is the second election voting that we've had, and we didn't have any complaints after the first year.
Well, the first one was on the back side of the building. This one, you had to go up the front.
So, true. Yeah, the state required us to have 2 other polling locations. If you may recall, we all used to vote at the rec center, where it was too big of a precinct, actually one of the largest ones in the state. So they made us split it up, and so we were responsible for trying to find facilities that were large enough that could handle the voting populace. I think the 2 for that area were probably the event center and the college. One concern we have with the event center is that we currently have a purchase agreement in place on that, and what we didn't want to do was keep moving the polling places on that. Secondly, I think we have to establish those polling locations. Is it It's months in advance, and once you establish them, you can't change them. So I've had people call, say they don't want to vote there in November. We can't move it. The other thing, and I think it's important for everybody to remember, is that the state has made voting so much more easier. So if you have concerns on voting at the college, you can vote here, right in the doors across from City Center. What is it? 4 weeks prior to 45 days before the election. So I think that's an important reminder for those up to the election day that starting in 2 weeks, you can start voting right here. So if you've got concerns on whether it's the college, the Days Inn, or even the rec center, you can come and vote right here.
There's also curbside voting available at all locations. You just contact us to make arrangements, and the judges will come to your car and vote from your car.
Nice. Well, that's service.
Yeah.
And that's nothing new. It's been in place.
So I mean, I guess my own concern is I think every location we go to is going to have
something wrong with it.
something, and so I just wanted to express that there are alternative options of having to go through the building to vote that are available to voters as well. So, I mean, I think it's something we can take into consideration. The problem with that area of town is there's just not a whole lot of spaces that can hold elections, so.
All right,
Thank you, Gary.
so, yeah, thanks, Melissa. Yeah, the airport commission meeting, not too much new on there, as you heard before, you know, we're, trying to get, some, reimbursement for some of the stuff we did out there from the federal government, so hopefully that'll come through. We did have, meeting, for, sustain, or, come on, help me out. Resource allocation meeting. The train fell off the tracks, I'm sorry. We talked about the projects for next year, so that was about all my meetings, so, that's about it. So I just wanna say again about, how the wall was, I was still in high school when that happened, when the war ended, so, did have a brother that was over there, and for 17 months, so, can kind of relate to that, so, and, like I said, it was kind of neat to see some of the vets come up there, and, like I said, I was fortunate enough that I got to go out and for opening ceremonies, and one thing that I want to say again, I know when they came home, they didn't get a very good welcome, so I just want to say again, welcome home, guys. So let's go home.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Chad to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.